Okay, picture this with me. You're building some killer app, right?
Yeah.
But instead of, weeks of like wrestling with code, you just tell your computer what to do and boom, instant software.
Sounds pretty nice.
No kidding, right? And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the AI age of disruption. We've got this awesome article and YouTube video by Divyan Gupta. And I think this is going to be really eye-opening for anyone who wants to get ahead of the curve, because this isn't just about like robots taking our jobs. It's way bigger than that.
It really is.
This is about how AI is going to completely transform how we work, how governments are going to have to adapt. It's a whole new world, really.
It's moving so fast, too.
Crazy fast. In fact, Gupta really hits on this in the article. He's like, AI isn't some far-off sci-fi thing anymore. It's already here. I mean, look at ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot. They're already changing how we develop software right now.
Yeah, and it's more than just speed, too. AI is getting seriously good at some pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, how about AI that can write its own code?
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, they call it voice-to-development. So you're basically just talking to your computer, telling it what you want, and it just builds it for you.
No way.
It's wild.
So does that mean every programmer out there needs to become like an AI whisperer then, or?
It's a good question, but I think instead of thinking about it as AI replacing us, think more like AI as a collaborator.
Okay.
It's like, the autopilot on an airplane.
Right.
Like, yeah, planes can practically fly themselves these days, but we still have pilots. Their roles are just, I don't know, even more critical now, I guess. Overseeing the system, making those judgment calls, especially when things get a little hairy and AI can't quite handle it.
So you're saying we're not going to be obsolete, but our skills are going to have to, evolve.
Exactly. It's not about what you can do on your own anymore. It's about how well you can work with the AI. And actually, Gupta talks about this new need for hybrid skills.
Hybrid skills.
Yeah, like you got to be good at your job, but you also got to be good at working alongside AI, guiding it,
And that kind of leads into his point about specialists versus generalists.
Exactly. Yeah. That's going to be huge. Totally. Like imagine, say, you need a contract drawn up, right? And AI could probably whip up a basic template in seconds.
Right.
But you wouldn't want to just sign on the dotted line without having a real lawyer look it over, Someone who actually understands all the ins and outs of contract law.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of the point, right? AI can handle those broad strokes, but it's the specialists, the ones with a deep understanding, the human judgment. They're the ones who will be able to add that unique value that AI can't replicate.
So basically, becoming a master of your craft is even more important in the age of AI.
Absolutely. Think about those AI-generated news articles that are popping up everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
They might be grammatically perfect, packed with all the right facts and figures, but
they lack that human touch.
Exactly. They often miss the context, the nuance that a human journalist would be able to bring to the table. AI is great at well-defined tasks, but when it comes to subjective judgment, ethical considerations, insights, that's where we humans still have the edge.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's not just something that the tech world needs to be thinking about either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gupta even mentions how governments are starting to really sweat about the potential for mass job losses because of this AI revolution.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge concern.
And he even brings up this whole human employee-linked incentive thing, HLI. You heard about this?
Yeah, the HLI. It's a pretty radical idea, but it's gaining some traction. It's basically imagine you lose your job because a robot or AI or whatever can do it better and cheaper.
Okay, not the best feeling.
Right. But instead of just being left high and dry, the government steps in and provides you with financial support and retraining opportunities so you can learn new skills and get back on your feet.
Wow. So a financial safety net while people reskill for new careers, that's a pretty bold solution.
But how realistic is it? I mean, could something like that actually work in the real world?
It's definitely ambitious, no doubt. And the article even acknowledges that there's not going to be some one-size-fits-all answer here. But the fact that governments are even considering such radical ideas, to me, it shows that they're starting to realize, wow, this AI thing is kind of a big deal.
Right.
And they're going to have to adapt. Of course, the big question is, can they implement HLI in a way that's fair, effective, and doesn't bankrupt the entire country? And can they do it fast enough to actually help those who are already being impacted by all of this? It's a race against time, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. This whole HLI thing definitely brings up more questions than answers, but it'll be interesting to see how the conversation around it develops in the coming years. But for now, maybe we can shift gears a bit and talk about another big theme that Gupta touches on in the article. The ethical side of all this, especially when it comes to, like, using AI in warfare. Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. Probably one of the most ethically challenging aspects of this entire AI thing.
Because the stakes are so high.
Exactly. Like, imagine a swarm of AI-controlled drones, out there making strategic decisions on a battlefield, potentially deciding who lives or dies. It's heavy stuff.
It's like that whole self-driving car dilemma, but like amplified 1,000 times over.
1,000 times over, exactly. And if something goes wrong, if an AI makes the wrong call, who's ultimately responsible? Is it the programmer who wrote the code, the military commander who deployed it? It's a total ethical minefield.
With no easy answers.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just warfare, too. As AI becomes more embedded in our everyday lives, we're going to have to confront these same questions across all sorts of domains. Whether it's an algorithm deciding who gets a loan or an AI-powered medical device making life-or-death calls, the implications are huge.
It really makes you think about what it even means to be human in a world where machines are making more and more of these important decisions.
Right, it forces us to ask those big philosophical questions about free will, responsibility. It's a lot.
Definitely a lot to unpack. But I think the key takeaway here is that we need to find that balance, right?
Yeah.
We need to embrace AI's potential while also establishing some really clear ethical guidelines to make sure it's being used responsibly.
Absolutely. It's not about fearing AI. It's about respecting its power and making sure it aligns with our values as human beings. And you know what? That actually brings us back to something we were discussing earlier, communication. Because as we start working alongside AI more and more, as we're asking it to do these increasingly complex tasks, being able to communicate effectively is going to be more critical than ever.
It's more than just learning a new programming language, isn't it?
It's about understanding how AI thinks, right? Like,
Right.
how do you frame a problem in a way that an AI can actually understand and process? How do you provide feedback that helps it learn and improve? It's almost like we need to become AI whisperers.
I love that. AI whispers.
Right. We can't treat AI as just another tool to be exploited. It's about recognizing its strengths, its limitations, and engaging with it as, like, a partner.
And that requires constant dialogue and collaboration, not just between, like, the developers who are building these AI systems, but policymakers, the public, everyone, really.
It's a collective responsibility for sure, and it starts with education, awareness, and a willingness to engage in these complex conversations. Because honestly, the future of AI isn't some predetermined thing. It's being written right now by us.
And Gupta's article definitely doesn't shy away from that sense of urgency, does it?
Not at all. He's basically saying, like, hey, the time to prepare for this AI-powered future is now. But at the same time, he also maintains this sense of optimism. He really emphasizes that we have the power to shape this future rather than just being shaped by it.
It's empowering. In a way, we're not just passive bystanders in this whole technological revolution. We have agency.
Exactly. It's about embracing the possibilities and taking proactive steps to ensure that AI is being used to enhance our lives in meaningful and ethical ways.
Speaking of which, if you had to give our listeners just one piece of advice, one key takeaway from everything we've discussed today, what would it be? What should people be focusing on if they want to thrive in this AI-driven future? It's funny. With all this talk about AI and algorithms and all this crazy technology, I think the most important thing, the thing people should really be holding on to, is their own humanity. You know what I mean?
100%. It's easy to get caught up in all the hype, the fear, the what ifs, but at the end of the day, AI is still just that artificial.
Right.
It can do some pretty amazing things, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have that empathy, that creativity, the critical thinking. Those things that make us human, those connections we make with each other, that's what AI can't replicate.
It can try.
Oh, it's trying, that's for sure, but it's just not the same.
Exactly. And it's like what we were saying before about specialization, right?
Yeah.
Becoming an expert in something, being passionate about something.
Makes you better at what you do, but it also, like, reinforces those human qualities, the things that AI just doesn't have.
Because AI might be able to, like, analyze mountains of data in a split second,
Sure.
but it doesn't have that nuanced understanding of the world, those emotional connections, that spark of, like, creative genius.
Yeah.
The stuff that comes from actually living,
And that's what's going to set us apart.
And on that note, I highly recommend checking out Divyan Gupta's article, The AI Age of Disruption, if you want to, like, really dig into all of this, because he covers a lot of really fascinating stuff, from the nuts and bolts of how AI is already changing industries to the potential of this whole HLI thing.
Which is mind-blowing when you think about it.
Seriously. To like the ethical considerations, the philosophical questions about what it means to be human in this rapidly evolving world.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process, but it's a conversation that I think we all need to be a part of.
100%, because the future is being written right now and we all have a hand in it.
Exactly. So stay curious, keep learning, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep those human sparks flying. That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.